Welcome, everyone, to our March 2026 Plant Docs cooking class, quick and easy. I'm going to hand it over to Wendy for some housekeeping to get started.
Yeah, so welcome everybody. I'm Wendy. I am the program director here at Plant Docs and excited to see everybody tonight for this class. In terms of housekeeping, if everyone could stay on mute, that would be really helpful. It cuts down on the background noise. And if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and then I can relay them to Sandy. Couple things I wanted to share. In addition to the cooking classes, we have some other programs and offerings. And so one of our most popular programs is called Jumpstart Your Health. And we are starting a new cohort on April 6th. It consists of 5 weekly meetings, it's a combination of education and cooking together. I'm going to put a link to the registration in the chat once we get started. And for folks who are interested, if you have questions, I'll include an email where you can email me. But we're offering a little incentive that if people register within 48 hours, we're offering a 10% discount for the program. And then starting in May for 4 weeks, we are offering a Foods That Fight Cancer class. And that is for people who either have cancer, people who are cancer survivors, people who know people who have cancer and are interested in supporting them, and just really anybody who wants to fuel their body with foods that fight cancer. And so I will post the registration link as well as a discount code in the chat for that as well. If you do have questions, just like I said, type them in the chat and I can relay them. If they're technical questions, feel free to type them as well. And I'm assuming everybody knows chat. If you don't, you can go to the bottom. You can either click the three dots by your picture, and there's one of the options is chat, or you can go to the bottom of your Zoom screen and you'll see a bunch of different options. One of them is chat. You can click on that and then you just type in your message. So I think I'm all set, Sandy.
All right. Thanks, Wendy. Well, welcome, everyone, again. And we are going to be talking about plant-based proteins, specifically tempeh and seitan, because I get a lot of questions about that. So we're going to do two things, make a tempeh bacon. And the second one is a saute. That's a saute of seitan, mushroom, and onion. And you have the option, just so you know, if anyone's new to this, we send the recipe out when you sign up. And we love it when everyone cooks along together. And that's kind of the goal of it. And that's the pace that I cook at. Like, I don't have everything pre-chopped or anything. And that way we're all kind of cooking along and you can ask questions as we go about what your process looks like. So the other alternative is you can just watch, which is fine, but it's not one of those things where like things are magically done. I'm going like in real time. So the first recipe, we're going to get the tempeh bacon started. So if you haven't and you are cooking long, preheat your oven to 350. My oven takes forever to heat up. And then we're going to make the marinade and cut up the tempeh. We're going to marinate the tempeh. And while that's marinating, we'll prep the ingredients for the seitan saute dish. And then we'll pop our tempeh in the oven. And while that's cooking, we will go ahead and make the seitan mushroom and onion saute. And there might be time for a little mini PowerPoint on plant-based proteins. So to get started, I just have a bowl and I'm gonna put together the ingredients of the marinade, which is a quarter cup of tamari or soy sauce. And I like using the lower sodium version. This is the Sanjay brand. And then 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, my favorite sweetener. For hardcore kind of whole food people that are avoiding maple syrup, you could use date paste, which is just dates that have been soaked in warm water and pureed into a paste. So it's just 100% dates. 2 teaspoons of liquid smoke. This is optional, but it does give that smoky flavor or essence. And the brand that I have is called Call Gin. Let's see, sure, which camera to use. All right. 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And I like the Bragg's apple cider vinegar because it has the mother in it. So it's kind of a form of fermented food. And then some spices. We're going to do smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon. And if you don't have the liquid smoke, you'll get the smokiness from this paprika. It's one of my favorite spices, and a teaspoon is a lot. So this isn't like, this is a recipe where it's going to be a strong flavor. So, because we're making like a bacon style tempeh, so it's meant to be combined with other things, like if you're making a TLT, a tempeh lettuce and tomato sandwich. So, onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon each of the next 3. So, onion powder, garlic powder, and black pepper. I'm just gonna grind my black pepper directly in. Gonna mix that all together. Perfect. So this is soy tempeh from Soy Boy. It's organic and it comes in a little block similar to tofu if you're not familiar. Um, it's fermented soybeans, and I'm going to talk in more detail when I do the PowerPoint. One of the things that some people complain about with tempeh is that it can be a little bitter. And one way to get rid of that bitterness is to steam it for 10 minutes before you marinate it. That's an option. And what I normally do is cut it into the size I want to use, put it in a steamer basket, and then marinate it. So for the bacon, we want to cut it into like thin strips. So I'm going to, cut it this way, about 1/4 inch. So like that size. When I'm making stir fries with tempeh, I tend to cube it. It holds together. These would break apart if you were stir frying them with a bunch of vegetables. But for bacon, this is kind of perfect to lie in a sandwich. You could also use this to put on top of a salad for protein to give it a little crunch. So I'm going to marinate this in this shallow dish. So I'm going to pour my marinade in. It has a great smell. And I'm going to lie these all in here. I'm going to kind of roll them around. So all the sides get marinated. And Wendy, just feel free to interrupt me if anyone has questions. And we're going to let it marinate for 15 minutes. All right. That guy's a little skinny. He might break. Um, the other thing you could use is a marinade brush to kind of get the coating on all of them. You don't want to get your fingers messy. All right, so we're going to let that sit for 15 minutes.
Hello, sorry, maybe I missed it, but where are the printouts of the recipe?
Wendy, can you go over that?
Yeah, so I just responded in the chat, but the email links to the recipes are in, you'll receive it, everybody receives a confirmation email when they register. So you'll receive that. And if you don't have that, look in your junk or your spam folders. We also send the same information out a week before the class and then 24 hours before the class. So if you search Plant Docs, you'll probably find it. If you can't, feel free to email info@plantdocs.com and I can help you.
All right. Thanks, Wendy.
You're
So
welcome.
while that's marinated, I'm not going to cook this part. I'm just going to get our kind of prep our veggies. So I have an onion and I'm not going to dice it. I'm just going to um, do it in like slice it like this. So there'll be half moon kind of pieces. One of the magical things about onions, I love talking about magic when I'm cooking. That's the food as medicine piece of this. Onions are in the allium family, which is really good for heart health. They have a lot of anti-cancer properties. They're great for blood sugar control. It's like they're like good for everything. So try to incorporate them into your cooking. They also have great flavor. But like when the onion's whole, it doesn't smell or make your eyes water. But as soon as you cut into it, those are the active ingredients that give it the powerful smell and that make your eyes water when you're cutting onions. And what's happening is you're breaking apart the cell walls, releasing enzymes that are activating all the ingredients in the onion that are so good for you. So, and then as it sits here, magic is happening. So it's the those reactions take a little bit of time. So as it sits here and it's been chopped, and I can feel it, you know, in my eyes, that's also the stuff that's really, really good for you.
Sandy, do you recommend yellow or white onion, or does it matter?
Um, it doesn't matter. The red onions have different phytonutrients, so they're going to have like some of those anthocyanins that give it that red color. Um, from a culinary perspective, I think they're very similar, except like Vidalia onions or sweet onions are going to be a little sweeter than the yellow onions. They're all good for you from a food as medicine perspective. Garlic is also in the allium family and also has that kind of quality where when you just have like a garlic bulb, it's not that fragrant, but as soon as you crush it and slice it, you're releasing all those enzymes and activating um, the parts of the garlic that are so good for you. And garlic's been studied for, and I should say studied, has been used for thousands of years medicinally. Um, it has antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal components in it, as well as being great for glucose control, heart health, and cancer. It's one of the most studied herbs that there is. I like crushing it. It really releases a lot of the active ingredients. And the other thing we're going to get ready is and I don't know if you saw, I might have done it without saying it. I like to take my garlic clove and smash it with a flat wooden to just separate the paper. And it just kind of comes right off and then you can crush it. All right. So my mushrooms, I got these baby bellas. And mushrooms are also, this could be like a cancer fighting class because it has so many cancer fighting ingredients, including the onions, the garlic, the mushrooms, and the soy that we're going to be doing. But for these, to clean them, this is my mushroom brush. It's the only thing I use it for. And I just earlier just brushed off the dirt pieces and they looked really clean otherwise. So that's all I did. Sometimes they're kind of filthy, frankly. And then I will put them in water and wash them. So I'm just gonna chop them up. It's all just gonna be sauteed. So I'm just trying to do similar thicknesses as the onions so they can all kind of cook together. I try to curl my fingers when I cut. I'm not a chef. My knife skills are not as good as, a chef who's been doing this, but there's a few safety things I've picked up, and especially curling, doing that claw has saved me many times. When you feel the knife touch your fingernail, you just saved your finger. This is a huge mushroom, so I'm gonna cut that guy in half first and then slice him up. But mushrooms are one of the top cancer fighting vegetables as well. It has properties in it that isn't found in a lot of other vegetables. And it kind of makes sense because it's one of the only things we eat that isn't in for plant-based eaters, that isn't in the plant kingdom. It has its own kingdom, the fungal kingdom. So it has lots of properties in it that are good for you.
Sandy, do you want to share the fun fact about mushrooms absorbing vitamin D?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, if you take shiitakes or mushrooms that have those gills and you put it out in the sun for a period of time, they will absorb the vitamin D like thousands of times more vitamin D in the mushrooms. So it can be a source of vitamin D, which is rare in a food form. All right, so we have that. And then this is a Seitan brand. It's very hard to find Seitan. I really looked hard for this class in different supermarkets. For those of you that are in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, you'll probably be able to find this. I don't know if it's offered across the country. It's made in Connecticut, and it's called The Bridge is the brand. It's made in Middletown, Connecticut. And the ingredients are really clean. It's made with organic whole wheat flour. It's a wheat product for anyone who's gluten sensitive. There really is nothing else that you can substitute for this. It would just be like, oh, have tofu or tempeh instead. But I like the texture of this and the flavor. And it doesn't have a lot of crap in it. It just has the whole wheat flour, soy sauce, some seaweed, some ginger, and some vitamins. Really all there is. So I do like this brand. So I'm just draining the water. And you can see it's, for those of you new to seitan, people say like fake meat. I don't like that because fake meat to me is more like super processed. And to me, this has very clean ingredients. So I feel good about eating it, but it comes in these like irregular chunks, and it's made from wheat flour. So it's basically like kind of like making bread where you make the dough, you knead it, and then you soak it in water and it pulls out the starch and concentrates the protein. So it's kind of interesting. I've never made it myself from scratch. Haven't entered that phase of my life yet. I feel like it's going to be in my future. But not right now. I'm eating canned beans and seitan from a container. So I'm into trying to, not spend all day in the kitchen, but someday I think I would like to make it. It seems pretty, maybe not easy, but I guess I can't comment till I do it. So I'm just going to slice this into kind of bite-sized chunks that are similar to the mushrooms, maybe, but not too big. And you can see when you cut it, it's just, for anyone who's not had it, it's chewy. And that's one of the things I really like about seitan. Like these chunks are kind of a good size. You can also kind of rip it if you want more irregularly kind of contoured pieces that are more like bite size.
And Sandy, a couple questions. Do you know how long you need to put those mushrooms in the sun for them to absorb? Is there any kind of guideline?
Um, in the study, it was a ridiculous amount of time, something like 6 or 8 hours. Like I can't imagine leaving, I don't know, food out all day in the sun. But I think even in shorter amounts of time, it's beneficial. So I don't know off the top of my head like a practical answer, because to me that doesn't seem practical.
Right, right. There's also another question, was the seitan brand in Whole Foods? I think you said it was Whole Foods, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen it anywhere else?
I have
That
not.
brand?
I don't know if other folks have, but I have not.
Yeah. And I haven't found other brands that I really like. Um, Most of the seitan I find is in tofurkey or and it tends to be more processed. You want the ingredient, like the first ingredient within that was organic whole wheat flour. So you just know. And then while I'm talking about brands, I found this at the Veg Fest, the Rhode Island Veg Fest, and it's excellent. It's called Tootie's Tempeh. I don't know where they're out of. Oh, Maine, that's right. Tootie's Tempeh, and it's pre-seasoned tempeh, which I normally don't buy stuff that's like this because it usually the ingredients don't pass plant docs approval. But this one, it's really just soybeans, vinegar, curry powder, and spices and the starter culture. So this is like a really clean tempeh. And one of the things that they talk about is they ferment it not in plastic. And they're saying that's why a lot of tempeh has that bitter taste. I don't know if that's true or not, but I can tell you this wasn't not bitter at all. And this was a curry flavor and it was delicious. So highly recommend this. And someone told me they saw this in the supermarket. I bought it at the Veg Fest. So I'd be really happy to see this on like Shaw's shelf, like an option that's healthy and clean and organic. All right, so I'm gonna move this so I can bring, sorry, 1 second while I rearrange. So the tempeh doesn't stick, I'm gonna use this silicone mat on a baking tray in the oven. You could also use parchment paper, but that way you don't have to use any oil. And I'm just gonna take my tempeh that has been sitting here and lie them out on this baking tray. And I'm going to save the marinade here. So halfway through, see, I have all this extra. Halfway through, I'm going to brush it all on after some of this dries out. So I'm just going to use my fingers. It's faster to separate them. And we're going to pop this in the oven, and in 15 minutes, I will, so good. I will flip them. You know, that marinade's really good. I should have tried it earlier. I just licked my fingers. It's delicious. All right. So while that's cooking, I'm going to turn on my, what is that? Oh, I dropped some maple syrup in there. That can't be bad. I'm going to preheat this burner. And when it's heated up, all I'm going to use is veggie broth. And for anyone new to Plant Talks and the way we cook, we don't use any oil. So everything, if possible, is in like the wholest form it can be, closest to how it was grown. And oils are not a whole fat form. It's the concentrated oil form. So it's kind of like apple juices to apples, as olive oil is to olives. So I'm just going to use a low sodium veggie broth. And I'm not going to use this yet, just to prove that you don't have to. I always start with my onions, and we call it dry saute. You put them in, and then you just leave them for a little bit. And what happens is that as they heat up, they release their own juices. I hear them sizzling. So we're gonna let those be and let those cook for like 5 minutes. So I'm just gonna clean up a little bit here before we add everything else.
Sandy, there's a question about what temperature you use to dry saute the onions. I think it's like medium to medium high.
Yeah, I like to avoid too high heat, like because if you start off high, well, first of all, you have more nutrient destruction when you cook on high heat. So I like to try to stay with medium heat. Or even lower if you have time, because then it just takes longer. But as the onions cook, they're gonna caramelize a little bit, and they'll form little brown imprints on the pan, which is actually full of flavor and like a whole nother level of like flavor layers. So I'm just any other questions?
I think we're caught up.
Okay, good. Is anyone cooking along? Kind of peek.
Looks like most watching.
A lot of watchers. That's
Yeah.
okay. It's more fun when you cook along, just FYI. And guess what? You have dinner when the show's over. That's why it's fun. I always like saying that when class is over, dinner is served.
Oh, there is a question about using a cast iron skillet. And it's okay.
Yeah, I love using cast iron. This one is has stainless steel. But those are my favorite ones. I've really turned against all non-sticks. They all scrape. I don't know. I don't know what they're made out of. So I like pans that I can clean really well and not worry about scraping the surface. For cast iron pans, you need to season them with oil. So, as long as they're seasoned and then and then you wipe it, there's very minimal oil that's getting into the cooking. So I love cast iron. So you can see like the onions are cooking just fine without any oil, and they're going to be delicious with or without the oil. I think that's what some people worry about when you leave out the oil. That's definitely another level of flavor, but these foods are so delicious on their own. They don't need the oil. All right, so those are starting to get a little translucent, a little yellowy. So I'm just gonna layer the mushrooms over it. And these two, as they cook, will release their own juices. And they'll end up being juices in the pan. An alternative way is to use veggie broth or just water to saute them in if you want a little liquid in the pan. It does change the way they cook a little bit because right now it's cooking by conduction, meaning the hot pan is touching the food and cooking it. When you have a little water in the bottom, then there's a steam effect as well. It's all good. So I'm also going to add my garlic on top that we minced, 2 cloves.
Sandy, another good question. Lane is wondering, how do you treat your wood cutting board so that you can cut different things on it and not have it taste like, onion or garlic, something like that?
Yeah, I guess I'm just not that fastidious or picky about that. I've never noticed like garlic. I used to have a separate garlic and onion cutting board, and I was really careful about keeping them separate. And I don't know, I don't notice it. So I clean it with warm soapy water, and then I use like a food grade mineral oil to kind of season the board and keep it in good shape.
Thanks.
Yeah, if anyone has any tips on that they use, happy to hear it. If anyone's not plant-based or is new to plant-based, one of the things about cutting boards that was like when I stopped eating meat and chicken, this huge aha moment. I'm a physician, so I was always freaked out about the germs from raw meat, raw chicken, eggs, dairy, like getting into the cutting board. And so I was really careful about, washing it and also just grossed out. And it was such like this relief to be like, I never have to worry about that again. Like the only thing that's going to touch the cutting board is vegetables. So
Another good
yeah,
cutting board question is, and I've actually seen this on social media, like in the past couple weeks, a lot, is how do you feel about the new titanium cutting boards?
oh, I don't know about those. But wait, before we talk about that, I just want to show you there's like all the brown stuff. The caramelization is starting to build up in the center of this pan. I'm sure there's a hot spot in the middle here, it looks like. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of veggie broth, and you'll see it hopefully disappear. So see, it just absorbed, like, see, it's just gone. And all those little brown outlines and bits, that caramelization from the onions and mushrooms is now mixed in and is going to be part of the flavor profile. Yeah, titanium cutting boards. That sounds like a metal. Like that doesn't sound like fun to chop on. I don't think, tell me about it.
I don't have one, but I've seen them for, like I said, for some reason in the last couple weeks they've been showing up on my social media. You just kind of slide it onto your countertop and you'd think it would dull the knife a lot, right?
Yeah, I don't even like cutting on like those hard plastic cutting boards. And I also have oh, this is I live with meat eaters, so this is the cutting board they use. This is the only one they're allowed to use. But I don't like it because I think the little bits of plastic are, all the microplastics. I don't want to eat that. And I don't get titanium. I'll have to research that. So love learning new things. All right, I'm gonna add my seitan to the mushrooms, onions, and garlic. And I'm gonna put in the soy sauce, a tablespoon of soy sauce on my seitan, kind of give it some flavor. It was cooked in a little soy sauce, so, but I'm just gonna kind of selectively do that, but it's gonna get throughout the whole dish. And I'm gonna add my half a teaspoon of dried thyme. I love these rectangular measuring spoons. They fit in like the narrow spice jars, which is nice. So I'm just gonna put the thyme on.
Sandy, there's another question from Justine who loves garlic and onion, but cooks for someone with a sensitivity to alliums.
Oh,
Do you have any suggestions on alternatives with some similar health benefits and or flavors?
hmm. The alliums are pretty unique. So if it's across the board, like that would include shallots and chives, and I can't really think of anything that has a similar flavor profile. You'd have to go in a different direction, like miso or um, tomato paste, or to get like that savory.
I'm also
And
wondering too if there's a difference between eating them raw versus cooked. Like a lot of times, if they're cooked, they're less um, pungent.
yeah, or if they're dried and powdered, I wonder if they have the same sensitivity in that case. So I'm gonna flip um, the oven tempeh while this just browns the seitan a little bit. Smells really good. I added the thyme, the black pepper, and the soy sauce. Yummy. All right, so let's see. So I'm gonna peek this delicious sauce on the other side. They're gonna be really flavorful. And that's why people love bacon, right? It's like pretty concentrated flavor, that smoky flavor. But bacon, sorry, bacon, but is carcinogenic. It's full of saturated fat. Um, it's probably one of the worst foods health-wise up there. But I get it. It's very tasty. So here is like an alternative for um, bacon lovers out there who want an alternative but don't want to um, get colon cancer. All right, I'm gonna try to flip them en masse. All right, it worked pretty well.
There was another good question in the chat that I did answer on the chat, but I just wanted to,
Yeah,
I
please.
think
What was
a lot of
that?
us probably have similar situations is Joy is sharing that how do you cope living with meat eaters and do you cook for them as well? And what I said was, and Cindy, feel free to add, is that I let them cook their own meat. However, I always make extra plant-based food so that they can try it and enjoy it alongside.
Yeah, when I switched our family over to plant-based, my kids were in middle school, so it was a little hard. It's kind of rough saying, this is the way I've cooked for you, and now I'm not going to do it. I said, if you still want chicken, you can learn to cook. I'll I'll buy it, but you have to learn to make it. I know that's probably mean, but it worked, and they're both really good cooks now, not plant-based. But they love their vegetables and their tofu. For a spouse, it's a little different because um, actually, well, he's my ex-husband, so maybe this didn't work out so well. But he had a lot of health conditions that were related to diet. And I was learning about plant-based eating. And I'm like, dude, you need to lose weight, lower your blood pressure, lower your cholesterol. And I don't want to be the person feeding you the food that's making you sick. So that was at the same time. So I'm gonna shut this off. 1 second. So I stopped making meat, but he was actually very grateful and ate all the plant-based food, and he lost 50 pounds. He lowered his blood pressure without medication and normalized his blood pressure, said that, and lowered his cholesterol. I forget, one of those I said twice. But and then so for him, he got the positive reinforcement of good health. And so anyway, but I know I talk to so many people. I do consultations with, mostly it's the women that are trying to get healthy and the men who don't want to. Sometimes it's the other way around. But it's hard, especially if the woman has been the main cook in the family. So another thing you can do, it's kind of like putting your mask on first on the airplane. I really think this is the way, if you're the cook, this is how you should think about it. You're the cook, you decide what's healthy, and here's what we're going to make. And we always talk about any bean, any green, any grain for plant-based eating. So you have this foundation of what you're going to make for dinner. So you have like your green bean grain, but then if you want to add meat, you could have that on the side. So for example, you could make a delicious bean-based chili and enjoy it over brown rice or with brown rice. And then you could just saute some chicken on the side or ground beef on the side that they could add. Or if you're making, like we do, black bean burritos with just salsa, avocados, just one of our quick nights with brown rice. And then you could add chicken on the side. So you're in your brain, you're planning the menu. The meal planning is geared toward the plant-based meal, and then you just have this side of meat that they can add. That's one way to kind of compromise. So just to show you how I plate this, I have brown rice here, and then I'm just gonna serve it with some greens, of course, in a bowl. And I just have to try it now. And then I'm going to do my PowerPoint. I love mushrooms. Oh my God. It's really flavorful.
And Sandy, after your bite, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about your thoughts on the safety of silicone cooking sheets. I know you use them all the time, but wanted to hear your thoughts.
Mm. I don't have any, and that may be ignorance. So if you guys know about a safety concern, let me know. I'm hoping that they're inert, and if you don't cut on it, I'm hoping it's intact and reusable. But I don't know of anything like that. I do know like there's the plastic. Well, I threw them all out, but I used to have like black plastic spatulas and spoons. But they do seem to like start to shred on the end, and I read stuff about microplastics getting in. So I did buy some, like these are like silicone spoons instead. And my preference is this, I have wood and this stainless steel spatula I love. And these are my, go-to. I love these just wooden ones. So I'm going to share my screen now and just do a quick little PowerPoint while that tempeh is cooking. But as you can see, like we made this whole stir fry was super quick. And the tempeh just takes a little bit to put it together. So here's a little something about more protein, please. For anyone that doesn't know, tofu is the kind of like the cheese of soybeans, which is how they make it. So it's a little more processed than a whole food, where tempeh is whole fermented soybeans. They're in their whole form and they've been fermented. And the seitan we talked about is from wheat flour and spices. So it's almost more like a bread, which is just kind of interesting. So I know this is a little busy and I can share a version of this in our after email. But what's interesting is the protein content for extra firm tofu has more than silken. So the highest you're going to see for 100 grams is like 10 to 12 grams of protein, where tempeh has 19 grams per 100 grams and seitan has 25 per 100 grams. So seitan is like the protein king, which, is not helpful if you're gluten sensitive. But other than that, it doesn't have the perks that tofu and tempeh have. So tofu and tempeh are both soy based. So there's a lot of evidence for the benefits of eating soy on a regular basis for cardiometabolic health. It helps lower your LDL. It has antioxidants that are beneficial to your heart and your endothelial lining, or the lining of your arteries. And regarding gut health, the tempeh is the healthiest for you because it's fermented and it improves digestion. It's very gut friendly. Tofu is also pretty easy to digest, but it's not fermented. It's a little more processed. Regarding micronutrients, tofu and tempeh have more micronutrients. Tempeh has the best and is the winner for that. And as far as satiety or feeling full, they the tempeh, they are all like satiating, but the tempeh and seitan have make you feel very satiated. So to me, overall, when I look at this, tempeh is like the winner for I would say the healthiest after kind of just researching this, because it has a good amount of protein. It's soy and really good for your heart. It's fermented, so you're getting that gut-friendly fermented food. It has the most micronutrients, and it's excellent fiber. So I'm going to eat it more after kind of researching this. I eat tofu a lot, but I think I'm going to try to switch to tempeh more. So that was my conclusion. So, and they can be used kind of interchangeably. So this is what the tempeh bacon looks like afterwards. And here's a saute with tofu or tempeh with a bunch of veggies. Silken tofu, it has less protein, but it's great for like adding to smoothies or making like creamy chocolate pudding desserts. In cooking, we make this Korean silken tofu soup that's amazing, amazing. One of our plant docs did a class on. It's a Korean dish. When you're cooking with tofu, it's like a sponge, so you have to make sure you're getting the water out so it can absorb the marinades. So this is like, a home cook version with a cast iron pan, a bunch of cans, and the tofu wrapped in a towel, or you can buy a tofu press. So for tofu, I usually stick with firm or extra firm when I'm sauteing it, so it holds together and will keep its shape. So like cubes, you can saute. Here's some barbecued triangles that were baked, or you can do slabs, which can hold together better grilled. You can coat tofu, you can put cornstarch on it or something equivalent like arrowroot to make it be crispy on the outside. Or you can roll it in aquafaba, which is the aquafaba or a flaxseed egg. This is a flaxseed egg. So sorry, aquafaba is the liquid from the chickpeas. And a flaxseed egg is when you combine warm water with ground flaxseed to make this gelatinous substance. So you can roll your tofu in that and then roll it in seeds or whole wheat breadcrumb seasoning to have it stick and then bake it. So there's a lot of different things you can do to create a coating on tofu to give it different flavor profiles. Tempeh, like I mentioned before, if you steam it for 10 minutes, it will remove the bitterness. And then you can cut it in whichever shapes you like to create stuff like the tempeh bacon or sautés. The marinade is what you would put the tofu or the tempeh in to give it to give it whichever direction flavor that you want it to go in. And you can see like it can go in more of like an Asian flavor with ginger, garlic, rice vinegar, or like more herby with lemons, cilantro, lime, barbecue teriyaki, balsamic, like peanut. This like the possibilities are endless. And when after you've taken the water out of the tofu, you don't need to do that for tempeh. You can let them marinate in these marinades for 15 minutes or for like all day. So I used to throw everything in the marinade in the morning. When I got home from work, then I would just bake it or saute it. Sauces are something that you're going to add afterwards, after you've cooked it. Then it can go in a different direction. So, like pesto would be amazing, ratatouille, spicy tomato sauce, teriyaki, peanut and soy sauce, or like lots of different Indian recipes like saag, vindaloo, tikka masala, or curries. The possibilities are endless. So this is just to hopefully inspire you to maybe give tempeh a try, seitan, because they're like kind of the lesser recognized ones. And then just to review, we have tons of resources on plantdocs.com, lots of recipes that are free and videos, and all of our programming is on plantdocs.com. So our Jumpstart Your Health, our next one starts April 6th, and it is definitely filling up. It's going to be really exciting. So if you're interested in joining this program, it's fully remote for 5 weeks. And as Wendy said, there's a discount. She's going to put it in the chat. Our next cooking class like this one will be April 19th. And going with the quick and easy theme of 2026, we're going to do flavorful plant-based bowls that are fast, easy, and delicious. These are meals you can throw together in like 15 to 20 minutes. And then next week, we have a food for life class that our newest plant doc, Dr. Janet Limke, is doing on food for fitness and strong bones. So if you have osteopenia or osteoporosis, you don't want to miss this one. You can find it under programs, Food for Life. And we have a new series, it's going to be in May, called Cancer Fighting Foods, a 4-week cooking and educational series. It's a cook-along class or watch. And everything is focused on the most powerful foods that have been shown in studies to fight cancer. And for anyone that just wants one-on-one consultation, I am always available for a consult. Just let me know. All of that is on our website. So stop sharing. Move you back over.
And I've also, Sandy, reposted the links to all of those in the chat if anybody needs them.
Thank you.
There were a few questions that popped up during your presentation. The first one was about so you were talking about seitan, tofu, and how they all compare. There was a question about how do mushrooms compare, and while they're an entirely different food, they definitely have gifts and benefits that I think are different. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, all of these, plant-based whole foods, I agree, Wendy, have different benefits and they all like work synergistically and nicely together. That's why we're always talking about combining whole grains, beans or bean-based protein, greens and veggies, because like together, and then the healthy fats like nuts and seeds, tahini, etc. And mushrooms fall in there as, like I said before, they're very unique in the gifts that they give our body. And I feel like every food we eat should be giving us a gift. Like, and it's possible to where every single ingredient, even when you're making, I just made my mom a banana bread. I was just visiting my 95-year-old mom. She's like, I have too many bananas. I don't know what to do with them. I'm like, I'm making you a bread. But every ingredient, she handed me a recipe that had like flour and sugar and eggs. I'm like, no. And I made this delicious bread with ground flaxseed and ground oats and applesauce and bananas and cinnamon and, so anyway, I digress. Mushrooms have lots of gifts, but they don't really compare as far as nutritionally because they don't have the same protein content. Where tempeh, seitan, and tofu, I kind of group together with legumes as being the bean part of a plant-based diet. I put them more with the vegetables.
There's actually another question. Someone would like the banana bread recipe, so I can get that from Sandy and I'll send it out in the after email. And then the other question was about, which this was a new one for me, I'd never heard of it, pumpkin seed tofu.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it. I've never cooked with it, but that's a great alternative for people who can't have soy. So it's kind of, I think it's the same concept of how they make tofu, where they soak it and then get the milk and then create a curd. It's like a cheese, that's how they make tofu. So it's less of a, it's better to just eat. I mean, it sounds fun, but of course, it's healthier to eat the pumpkin seeds. Gonna get way more fiber. Um, so here's my tempeh bacon. Um, mm. Okay. Oh, it's hot. Oh, okay. So mine, this isn't like crunchy. And just like bacon, you can make it so it's chewy, or you can cook it longer so it's like completely falls apart and is really crispy. You can do the same thing with this if you left it in longer. To me, this is really tasty. Um, I'm gonna then, I just have to decide, am I gonna eat all of these? Or I would freeze them and then I could add them to salads. But one of the things I wanted to show you was this. If you wanted to make a sandwich, like a BLT kind of situation, I'm a big avocado person, so I didn't prepare that, but as I'm making this is definitely like it needs like the moisture of the avocado or even hummus to put on the bread. And then this is this is just arugula and spinach, but it's one of my favorite Olivia's greens to get, like, I'm always trying to get my leafy greens in wherever I can. So that could put some tomato slices on it and then put your tempeh bacon to make like a sandwich. So that's how I would do that. Plus the avocado for the healthy fat or the hummus for more protein. And like that would be amazing. Or you could, this is Ezekiel bread, but they also make Ezekiel buns that are more available in the summer, would make a great kind of holder for this sandwich.
Yeah, and there was just a comment in the chat about recommendation for wrap or bread, and mentioning that a lot of them have ultra processed ingredients, and we agree with that. It's hard. It's easier to find breads like the Ezekiel, as Sandy mentioned. I think the wraps, they do have wraps as well, but they're a little trickier to work with. But you're right, a lot of them have a lot of different ingredients in them.
This is my favorite. It's Ezekiel flax and it's sprouted grains. So when anything says sprouted, it means it's grown just a little bit. It's opened up and more nutrients are bioavailable. So you find this in the freezer section if you're not familiar with Ezekiel, but any product that has Ezekiel usually passes the Plant Docs ingredient test for quality in Whole Foods. So they also have English muffins, they have breads, they have wraps, and buns. And also anything that says plant strong, usually also is going to be high quality. But most of the breads out there, you're right, are made with refined flours, and a lot of them have corn syrup in them. And so, yeah.
Do you know if there's gluten in Ezekiel off the top of your head, Sandy? That was another question.
Yeah, they usually is. Yeah, this one is wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, spelt. So the wheat, the barley, and the spelt all have gluten. I don't know if they have a gluten-free variety. If there's anyone with a gluten allergy on the call, is it, I think there's a bread called pancha. Maybe Lane knows. I don't avoid gluten. I digest it fine. And I don't think you have to avoid it unless you have a sensitivity or an allergy to it, because it's good for you in general. It's got a lot of bad rap, but mostly because of all the processed, refined wheat flour that is now white flour that's enriched. And, we eat too much of that. All right, we're at time. So feel free to email me, Sandy@plantdocs.com, or Wendy is info@plantdocs.com if you guys have any questions about the class or any of our programs that we mentioned. And I look forward to seeing everyone next time.
And I will be sending the recording and also links to the programs out tomorrow as well.
Great. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Everybody.
Happy cooking.